Transcripts and recordings of the podcast may not be used for any purpose without the direct written permission of the podcast owner. Welcome to LITE It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of LITE It Up. I am your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. I am so excited to be back on the microphone. It has been a couple of weeks since I have released an episode of LITE It Up podcast. The last episode was a tribute to my late father, Munir Muhammad, and I think after that episode, I had to take a little bit of time to kind of process some things, and there was so much going on personally that I didn't have the time to release a new episode. And, there's always a reason for me to miss a week from coming on the microphone to talk to you all. I also did a little bit of traveling. I went to North Carolina and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for the Easter weekend to have a little bit of girl time with my daughters, Aaliyah and Khalees, and also had an opportunity to see my son down at school, my son Kamal. So it was an unexpected but much needed getaway. And I'm actually glad that I took the time to do that. And so now here I am, right back at it, trying to juggle my new position that I told you guys about a couple of months ago. That has really been keeping me busy. And also, of course, the balancing act of being a mother and then trying to have a personal life. So it's a lot going on, but my passion is always going to be on this microphone. So with that being said, I am not going to be very, very long this week, but I just wanted to talk just a little bit about some things that have been going on here in the Chicagoland area. I don't normally talk about some of the events that occur or that transpire here as it relates to any type of violence or anything of that nature. It just really depends, because those topics are pretty heavy. And, my focus has always been on essentially leadership, being transformative and being inspirational. That's kind of where I'd like to keep the conversation. But as a parent, I feel that it's my responsibility to kind of talk about some topics that impact parents and youth in the community. So over the weekend, it was quite warm here in Chicago, and there were a few incidents that transpired over the weekend, which has led to a lot of buzz and conversation on social media. So the weather was warm here last week. Friday, it was very, very warm, and Saturday. Now we're back into winter because, quite frankly, the weather is bipolar here. But over the weekend, there were several incidents where there were groups of teenagers who were in certain areas of the city of Chicago. Um, you guys have probably heard about these trends that are on social media where someone will post for a meetup at a designated location and just have all of these different buzzwords to capture the attention of young people. And ultimately, what occurs is that there's either an outbreak of a fight, there may be some type of damage done to property. And in this instance, on Friday night, there was a trend that had been posted on social media for a few days talking about a meetup at the 31st Street Beach. Now, one of the reasons why I know about this is because I'm a part of several different, social media groups related to parenting. And I'd recall seeing a parent post um, a screenshot of this trend that had been posted on Instagram. And the parent was essentially asking, saying, "Moms, have you heard about this? My daughter asked if she could attend this. I'm not really sure if she should. What are your thoughts?" Of course, moms chimed in, um, gave their perspective. And sure enough, on the 10 o'clock news, what you saw and what you heard was that there was an outbreak of fights, that there was a teenager who was shot. Um, and, it was, as a result of just a massive number of teenagers who were on the lakefront at the 31st Street Beach. On Saturday night, there was apparently another trend where a group of teenagers made their way to downtown Chicago. And what you see, and I don't even know, I'm still a little undecided as to whether or not I will even show the clips. It's been all over the news, all over social media. But what you saw were teenagers on top of cars, dancing, just causing, in the middle of the street, just causing mayhem, quite honestly. And so the question that had been posed over the weekend, what I've seen on social media is, you know, who's responsible? Why are our children acting in this manner, right? Totally different generation, totally different. Um, and of course, people have a lot, to say. There are so many people who kind of chime in on, on what has transpired and giving their perspective. And so the question becomes, who's responsible or whose fault is it? Because of course we've got to find a way to place blame on what is happening with this generation of children. Now, I know that everyone parents differently. And my parenting style may not be another person's parenting style. Um, but there's concern about like the incidents that transpired over the weekend and that happened, on Friday and Saturday, which is something that happens as soon as it gets warm. And we haven't even gotten to summertime yet, right? Who should be responsible? You hear some politicians saying that there aren't enough resources available for our young people. And I don't think that that is the case. There are plenty of resources that are available. The question is whether or not families are utilizing those resources. But the other issue is um, the parenting styles of individuals today. Unfortunately, we are living in a society now where, parents are more concerned with being their children's friend than actually parenting and establishing consequences for one's actions. Um, I'm the mother of three. I have two young adults who are in college. My youngest child is a sophomore in high school. And my children can't go anywhere without me knowing where they are. And I know a lot of people will say, well, you can't be with your children at all times. You don't know what they're doing when they're not in your sight. Point taken. That may be very well true. However, my children understand my level of my expectations. I'll say that. And they know that when they walk out that house, they represent me. They also have enough respect, I believe, for themselves, for me as their parent, for our name, that they will not be disrespectful of adults. They will not ignore the rules or anything of that nature. So there are just certain things that in my household, my children just have not been permitted to participate in. They weren't going downtown unsupervised, even when they were in high school. They were going downtown. I was going with them. They couldn't hang out just anywhere or attend certain type of functions or events if I didn't know the parents, if I didn't have a general idea who was going to be there. And so some people may call that being overprotective. Maybe I was a helicopter parent, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, and I wish I had a piece of wood to knock on, but I've not experienced where my children have been caught on video, have been arrested for breaking any rules or for doing anything that would be deemed disrespectful or a violation of rules and order. And I think, unfortunately, um, the ability to parent or to have that village or that community who can step in, like right now in this day and age, as an adult, I can't say anything to another person's child or say, you need to kind of think about that before you take that action. I'll give you a prime example. Just last week in my own neighborhood, um, I was letting down my blinds and I saw two boys walk through my yard. They walked through my grass and they were proceeding to go to my backyard, walking in my grass. Well, I could have just ignored it and not said anything. However, I chose not to. I opened up my front door. I asked, why were they walking in my grass and why were they walking towards my backyard? I asked those questions for a couple of reasons. There have been incidents within my subdivision, within my community, where individuals have either broken into a neighbor's home or been on property which they did not belong. I decided to ask questions. And I will tell you that with these two I'm going to call them young men because I'm going to try to be respectful, but one was extremely disrespectful. I won't go into all of the details of what transpired after that. But at the end of the day, an hour later, my next door neighbor, because it just so happened that these two boys were actually friends of my next door neighbor's son. And my next door neighbor came over, rang my doorbell, took full responsibility, apologized for the behavior of those two boys. Um, but I didn't back down. In that moment, I wasn't afraid to speak up and say anything to these little boys. Now I'm going to call them little boys. Um, but in hindsight, I do recognize that um, it the situation could have turned left very quickly, because I do recognize that unfortunately our generation does not respect authority and does not and has a lack of respect for adults, unfortunately, especially if the adult is not their parent. But I do believe that it is important um, to constantly remind these young people that there has to be a level of respect when you're dealing with other individuals. Um, so I think the root of the issues that um, are currently underway, there's this battle right now, um, basically on morality. And if we as adults don't get a handle on what's going on with our youth, we are going to have an entire generation that's lost. Unfortunately, every day, day in and day out, we are hearing about young people's lives that have been taken. We are hearing about young people who are engaged in activity that, quite frankly, they should not be engaged in. And at some point, we have to hold parents responsible for the actions of their children. Parents need to begin to parent. I don't believe that we should necessarily blame the youth, because they didn't get this way on their own. They had help in the matter. Whether it's because as adults, we've been so busy trying to provide our children with everything that they have this sense of entitlement, and that they don't work for the things that they receive. Um, I don't know if it's because we're not spending enough time with them, talking to them, teaching them, and guiding them. But we have a generation that's lost. And it is time that we take a pause and um, begin to cultivate and develop our young people. We have a responsibility to do that, because what I'm seeing that is going on right now within our society, within our community, is really devastating. Um, so I didn't want this week's episode to be, any type of lecture where, you know, being judgmental or anything of that nature, but more so a call to action for all of us, whether we are a biological parent or not. But we all need to collectively work together so that we can get a handle on what is going on with our young people and within our communities. Um, we can't solely place the blame on one segment of the population, but we have to really recognize what the problem is, what's the root of the problem, and get down to business and be dedicated to working on resolving the issues that we currently have. Otherwise, um, I don't know what our future holds, what our future looks like. But I just want to really remind you and try to convey the importance of, when you are a parent, there's so many different responsibilities, that you have. And it's not easy, whether if there's a 2-parent home or 1-parent home. Parenting is not easy. It really isn't. But it is so important for us to, start to cultivate and develop a village so that we can get a handle on our youth very, very quickly. So I'm going to put a pin in it on that topic. And hopefully next week I can kind of come back with a topic that's more aligned with this month, April, with it being Financial Literacy Awareness Month. There are some things that I definitely want to present and share to the viewing audience to kind of be on point and aligned with that. But I just felt compelled to kind of share my thoughts about what has transpired here in the Chicagoland area when we are just right in the midst of springtime, and really have a call to action for parents and non-parents alike, but adults within our communities, to try to find a way to help save our youth. That is really the important. That's something that's of critical and utmost importance right now, because too many of our youth are dying every single day. And before you know it, we'll have an entire generation that's lost. So we've got to get a handle on this situation fast, quick, and in a hurry. I want to thank you all for, again, taking time out of your day to tune in to another episode of LITE It Up. Next time I come back before the microphone and online, definitely hope to have a little bit of more of a happier topic to share with you all. But every now and then we kind of got to get serious about those issues that are top of mind and of utmost importance, and saving our youth is definitely one of those topics. So I want to thank you all again for tuning in to this week's episode of LITE It Up. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And I'll see you all next week. Same time, same place. Remember, LITE It Up is available on all streaming platforms wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, which should be LITE It Up. So until next time, don't forget to continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on LITE It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.liteituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LITEItUpPodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.